3 to 4 years is kind of the right model to keep renewing yourself, to keep learning something new, to keep taking on new challenges. When you see people with like single organization careers, they have reinvented themselves in different roles and different levels, different business units or different functional areas.
Welcome to That Pivotal Moment of Change, the podcast about the career stories that shape who we become. Wins, stumbles, tough calls. We get into all of it. If you're ready to grow, level up, or take a bold leap, you're in the right place. Quick ask, if you're getting value from the show, hit follow. It helps us grow and lets us know what's working. Today we speak with Jose Coronado.
Good morning, Jose. Welcome to the podcast.
Good morning, Ryan. Thank you for the invitation. Really excited to be here with you.
I'm excited to have you here. Also, really looking forward to speaking with you today. Can you talk about your background and how you got into operations and strategy work?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. That's a good way to set the stage for this conversation. My background is in industrial design, both in undergrad and grad school. However, very early in my career, I went into software design, digital design, rather than hardware design. And my background is in enterprise technology, management consulting, and financial services, and also retail. But basically, that's been the path of my career. I have been in enterprise technology. I started as an individual contributor all the way up to manager and global head of design, leading product, content, research, design systems, and all the disciplines around the work needed in a global design organization. And then when I did my transition to management consulting, I was exposed to many different industries, from insurance to actually management consulting firms, working with other management consulting firms in pharma, in logistics, in many different complex application spaces. And that basically opened the door for the call that I got from a good friend of mine in financial services. And he said, Jose, would you be open to building a design operations team from the ground up? And I go like, absolutely. I have not done that before, but I have been doing design operations to a large extent as a global head of design. So it was a new challenge. It was a new perspective, and I never looked back. And then I have done that through at least 3 different organizations with three different contexts.
Talking about building teams, could you talk a little bit about what your approach has been to building teams and any insights that you've learned along the way that could help others?
Sure. I think it's all a matter of context. So depending on the context and the needs of the particular organization, you make emphasis on different areas. My last team, which was an operations and a strategy team that I had to build from the ground up, it needed the senior leaders to lead the different practices. I was responsible for 3 areas of practice, and also to have the individual contributors inside those teams. So it was basically a full-on approach from leadership people all the way down to a junior or a mid-size or mid-experience professionals. The best part of that particular team is that I was able to go wherever the talent was in the US and also in India. Other organizations have placed a lot more restrictions in terms of where you can hire, basically just near a hub office to ensure that there's the ability to work in a hybrid model. But basically the context informs the type of talent that you go after, and also the level of expertise. I'm going to add one more thing. When I was in a position to influence the organization, we were able to create what I call the design development program, which was basically a program targeted to new talent that was just coming into industry, and be able to foster the development, not just of the new talent into a particular industry, but also to help senior and lead designers become mentors and kind of hone their skills as to growing and developing talent in the organization. And that has been pretty rewarding for me.
You are a master networker. Can we talk a little bit about how you got started building your network?
I think the process started in probably in the real estate crisis in 2008. I had, very few connections. I just moved around kind of my immediate circle of people. Back then there wasn't a culture of meetups. It was just culture of conferences. And when I started reaching out to people or just attending an event, I would be very content to stand in a corner and just observing the room and not talking to anybody. And then I decided to, you know what? Let me set a goal of meeting one new person every event that I go, every conference that I would attend. And that started to be, first one, then two, then I would introduce the two that I met to another person that I just met in that event. And it basically became like kind of a catalyzing effect. And I'm super open to facilitate connections with people. And that doesn't take you much effort. It's an easy way to make sure that people understand that you are there and that you're active and that you can make the connections and the introductions without any hesitation. Basically making deposits in your network, nurturing your network, which is super important for me.
I really like that. And I like how you kind of thought about that in terms of just starting off observing. I think I've been in a similar space myself, but I really like how you talked about it's a goal of meet one person. I just think that way of thinking is just great in terms of it's giving you the confidence to go and do that once, which is like going to give you the confidence to go and do it again. You do a lot of speaking. You do a great job with speaking. You're putting a lot of great content out there. What got you from that point of, okay, I'm just going to conferences now and going to try to meet people to, I want to get on a stage and speak?
Well, I have always been pursuing that opportunity. But the way I started early in my career, it was more the academic approach, the referee papers that needed to be presented, and they needed a lot of rigor and depth in them. And basically to get on a stage in that, kind of what I call the academic level, you have to have something fully baked. You have to have a lot of work put into it. And then many times you can empty-handed because they would say thank you, but no thank you. Your paper didn't qualify for the conference. Fast forward to basically my last several years, I realized that in order for me to get onto the stage, well, I have to have the network, but also I just have to have an idea and a short summary of what that idea might be. And that's basically my test and learn experiment approach. I propose the idea. Sometimes the idea resonates, sometimes it doesn't. Then in other situations, let's say you and I are talking about, and you ask me a question and I go like, Ryan, that idea could turn into a conference talk, and then kind of develop it from there. I think the advice that I would give people is don't be afraid to take a chance. And the chance starts with propose, catchy title, short summary, and that's your way to begin developing. If you get accepted, then it's time to make the effort to develop the talk, ensure that it is of good quality, that you practice, that it is very well curated, that if it has references, you make sure that you give credit to the folks that inspire you, and then basically go from there. So my current talk is on closing the gap between business and design. And as I alluded to a couple of minutes ago, it started with a conversation with another leader. And, Jose, we have issues in terms of connection with the business. And I go like, you know what? That could be turned into a talk. So now I'm basically leveraging this idea in terms of three pillars. One is influence. The other one is a strategy, and the third one is about impact. And that's basically how I came to develop this new talk.
I love that, and it's a great talk, and I've had the privilege of seeing that talk. So definitely good. Would recommend anyone check it out. I don't know if it's posted anywhere.
It is not posted right now, but I think I have written a couple of articles about it, so we can certainly share some references to it.
Do you, when you think about content, so you have this talk now on closing the gap between business and design, do you look at that in terms of, okay, I'm going to ride this one out. And next year, I'm just going to kind of iterate on it and take it in a slightly new direction? Or you kind of look at it like, I need to do something new?
Well, I think ideally you would have new content. Right now, basically, I have about 4 talks that I could take on the circuit. One is focused on design operations, and I call it from zero to hero. So I started from the ground up to like delivering impact and creating good relationships. The other one is this one on closing the gap, and I have a couple that are focused on leadership. Basically, how do we as leaders come together so we can build a better future together? So those are things or themes that I am very passionate about. But I'm pretty sure that as I think about 2025 or 2026 right now, I need to think about what are the themes that are resonating with people in my different conversations, and then come up with the idea of creating new content that hopefully can resonate and I can take on the road to share personal anecdotes, exchanges with other leaders, things that I have observed in industry, and then basically go from there.
I guess a lot of that ties back around to networking, people you're talking to.
Exactly.
What are some key lessons you have learned throughout your career?
I'm going to share an anecdote that at the time it was a little bit negative, but it kind of turned into a positive lesson going forward. Early in my career as a manager, my boss called me the professor, but it wasn't in a nice way. It was in a critical way. Basically, my process and my approach to things was very black or white. It has to be very strict, following the process, doing all the research, having all the pieces together of, let's call it the perfect design process or the perfect product development process. And I very quickly realized after first initially taking the feedback as a negative point, a criticism that I took very hard, to realizing it doesn't matter in what type of environment you're in, whether it's enterprise, management consulting, financial services, any industry. And now with the advent of new technologies that allow us to do things even faster, the moment your process is not flexible, you're hurting yourself and you're hurting the ability of the team to create impact. So flexibility was kind of the huge lesson that I came from that moment in time. And I realized that the process doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to do all the things. You just need to do enough to make sure that you are creating an informed solution in collaboration with your partners. So I think that's one lesson that I would share. I think another lesson is don't be afraid of trying something new. So I have been leading global design teams, research, product, content, design systems, and everything else. And then when somebody asked me, Jose, would you like to build a design operations practice from the ground up? I have never done that formally. I have done it as part of my job, or I had a person in my team that would do the portfolio management, or my chief of staff as a part-time role. But I have never created a team of that nature from the ground up. And I said, sure, I'll do it. And I basically applied my knowledge and my background, but also I learned as I went. And one of the things that I did in that particular instance, I actually hired a person that had built a design operations practice in another organization. And I was very clear with this particular person. And I told her, basically, you have done the job that I have right now, and I want to learn from you. And she goes like, well, it's funny you mentioned that, because I also want to learn from you. So it's kind of having that trust in bringing people from different skill sets, people that would challenge what you think. And here I think I'm going to throw the third aspect. I hear a lot about hiring for culture fit. I rather say hire for culture complement. You complement the culture rather than fit in the culture. If you fit in the culture, you may end up hiring a lot of, I'm going to throw a matrix analogy. You're going to hire a lot of John Smiths, people that look like you, that behave like you. But if you hire for culture add, you will bring people from different perspectives, different industries, different backgrounds, different levels of experience.
I really like that part on the culture add instead of the culture fit. And you hear about culture fit a lot, but I think the way you're thinking about it there is spot on. And really appreciate what you said earlier in terms of when you're hiring. I think the thought is I need to hire somebody that I'll be able to kind of coach and mentor and could really be a part of the team instead of I want to hire somebody who I can also learn from, who has great experience as a kid that could make us better. I just think it's just, kind of removing ego from that equation and opening yourself up to really learn and work with other people, even if they report directly to you. So very cool to hear. Can you share an instance where a setback or failure turned out to be a hidden opportunity?
That's a good one. I think my first year building that design operations practice from the ground up, I had a team of two. So myself and another person that was a part of my team. And we committed to too many things in that first year. So we had a list of like 12 or 15 initiatives that we have to work through. We only accomplished maybe two or three. And then we started a lot of the rest, but we didn't have anything to show for. I actually thought that was going to be it. I did accomplish anything that I committed to. So here's the door. Thank you for your service. But I encountered my global head of design was basically very clear in terms of the fact that change in a large organization takes time and takes patience. And she took patience with me. So I wasn't fired, and I was actually supported to grow the team at that point. And my bigger lesson here was basically on one of my design leadership principles or leadership principles, which is right size your commitment. The other one is make sure assumptions are explicit, because when they're not explicit, you assume other people know, or other people know what the expectations are, but then there could be disconnects. And the third one is about promoting our wins, promoting our impact. If we don't promote the impact that we have, whether it's as individuals or as teams or as design organizations, promoting the impact of design that they have in the business, then people will not know or will get an articulation of that impact in a different manner than you want it to be, or that does not give enough recognition across the board.
How have you gone about promoting your work or your team's work?
Promoting the teamwork is like creating your design portfolio. It's one of the ways. So what is the portfolio of work of the team, and what are the results that we have? That's one way. The other one is creating the forums for you to share that information, whether it's a monthly forum or a quarterly forum. One of the most common forums that I have used is the Design Quarterly Business Review, where we invite our partners, not just our team, to understand and learn what is it we were working on, what kind of impact we created, and what is the work that's going to happen ahead. Also to share what are some of the headwinds and tailwinds that the team is experiencing. Many times you're facing some conditions that are creating an adverse situation in the team, but if you don't involve your partners to at least be aware of those, or in a better instance, help you resolve those, if it is executive support or reshifting resources to tackle priorities that are more prevalent. So I think that is a key way to doing it. And talking about making assumptions explicit, many times we share information with our leadership peers in the design team, and we assume that they're using that information to have periodic conversations with their partners. But assuming that they're having those conversations might not be the reality of things. And the conversation may only happen once a year when it's time for budget. And at that point, it's already too late, because you haven't been keeping your partners updated in terms of progress, on impact, on challenges. And when you come with your hand extended for the budget season, they go like, "Excuse me, who are you? What have you done for me lately?"
Can you recall a moment in your career that significantly influenced your path?
I could think of a couple, but one that it is deeply personal. I am originally from Colombia. So when I first got here to the US for my grad school, I had a huge fear of either not understanding what was going on around me, or not being understood if I wasn't communicating effectively. So for the first decade of my career, I tried to separate myself from my own personal background and heritage because I wanted to belong. I wanted to be seen. I wanted to be part of. I wanted to be accepted into that new world. And then probably about 10 years ago, I hosted a design leadership panel with other Hispanic background leaders, Brazil, Puerto Rico, Colombia, Mexico. And one person sent me a note afterwards and said, Jose, I have never seen myself reflected in a leadership role. It's so nice to see so many people from a similar background than mine, a similar heritage than mine. And that really struck me as I should bring my whole self to my work, to my organization, and be an example, not just for Hispanic leaders, but or aspiring Hispanic leaders, but just any aspiring leader to be able to bring that whole self perspective. And I think that's been a moment that has been very important in my mind as to how I come as a leader, how I build teams, how I build relationships across the board in the organizations that I have been a part of.
Wow, that's powerful. Thank you for sharing that. What specific skills or mindsets have been crucial in navigating your career?
Always be learning. I work with a chief product officer that every week in the stand-up meeting with the leadership team would ask, what did we learn this week? What did we learn from our customers this week? It is important to learn about the people that we're designing for, but also about taking the time to reflect on your own professional growth and the professional growth that you need to foster. So I think that's always be learning and creating the space to reflect are critical. I think bringing some critical thinking and not just taking things in the surface value of them, understanding many times you get in a conversation and there's one request, but behind that request, there's a bigger problem. So having the ability to determine that in a very quick manner and then connecting the dots across the board. I think that is something that from my own experience as you describe it, as a networker, connecting people, connecting organizations, it has given me the ability also to connect the dots within organizations, either as an in-house leader or as a consultant, as I am right now. And I think those are super key things to think through.
Is there anything differently you would have done in your career?
Well, I think my first two roles were long year career roles in organizations. I think looking back and looking at the realities of today, I have read an article, it's an article that says basically about in 3 to 4 years, you hit plateau in an organization. So that's kind of the 3 to 4 years is kind of the right model to keep renewing yourself, to keep learning something new, to keep taking on new challenges. When you see people with like single organization careers, they have reinvented themselves in different roles and different levels, different business units or different functional areas. So that's kind of the cycle that we need to think about. And then when you look at the new generation, they're like 2 years in a role and then they jump to the next role for different motivations, for different challenges, for different perspectives. I think 3 to 4 is kind of that formula that may work for some people.
I like that. I think that's really interesting. It's just kind of making me think, having that mindset to think to yourself, I need to reinvent myself. No, I want to be clear. Like, I don't think what you're saying is every 3 to 4 years go find another job. I think what you're saying, and tell me if I'm wrong, but I think what you're saying is it's important to look at what you're doing and think about how you could reinvent yourself where you are now. And that could very well mean you are in the same job and you're there for a long time. You're just reinventing what you're doing in that role.
And yes, and I would add something that maybe I wasn't explicit about. It's also about fostering our own growth, our own professional development, because we take care of our teams and we create the conditions for our team to have those conditions for professional growth and development. And many times we do that at the expense of forgetting about ourselves. So it's like, how do we continue growing? I heard an interview the other day. The leader that I was thinking about said, if I'm leading an organization of 200 people, I need certain skills. If I'm leading an organization of 300 people, then I need to increase my skill set and my capabilities, but that extra percentage to make sure that I grow with the team. Don't get stuck into, I got here and now I'm leading in the same way as smaller size teams. So how do we grow proportionally or more than the proportions of the needs of the organizations or the needs of the team?
So being involved on both the ops side and also very much with design, I'd like to ask you, what do you think the future of ops looks like? So operations, as you've been doing it, and what do you think the future of design looks like?
Well, I think both are going to be influenced substantially by the new technologies that are becoming available. Some things that used to take manual tasks will be automated with machine learning and AI. I think right now is we're basically at a juncture point in terms of how do we position ourselves with our critical thinking, with our creativity, with our connections to make sure that together with product, with technology, with data science, we leverage the technology that's available to us, but we create the solutions that are needed in the marketplace rather than thinking, okay, I made this solution, now I have to backtrack and find a problem to make a match. It's like, how do we leverage the information and technology that we have today available to us that is making things faster and in theory more efficient, but in the service of the problems and the context in which we are working on and we're getting involved in.
Who have been your most significant mentors or influencers, and what lessons did you learn from those people?
I think one of the most significant relationships was with my advisor in grad school. So I'm dating back to my formal education perspective. But if you think about, and I'm going to explain very quickly, the educational system in a place like I come from in Colombia is very prescriptive. You have to follow these steps, and then you are able to complete all your requirements and graduate. In the US, you can go into undeclared or general studies and then choose your path. So I didn't know that until I came here. And the first question I asked my advisor was, what do I need to do? And he asked me back, Jose, what do you want to do? And I was like a deer in the headlight. Nobody has ever asked me that in terms of defining my educational path. And that's when I basically started doing what I was doing in Colombia: furniture, packaging, and then consumer products. And then when I did consumer product or consumer electronics, that's when I discovered my path was in software design or digital design instead of hardware product design. But it was because of that question that my advisor asked me, what do you want to do? So let's take the time to reflect a little bit, maybe once or twice a year, and think, okay, what do I want to do next? Where do I need to grow? What do I need to learn? And that way we can keep our mindset always open to possibilities, to new things that are sometimes we're used to just following a path and then not seeing kind of the branches that could come along the way.
What advice would you give to someone earlier in their career, still trying to figure things out? And what advice would you give to a more senior leader?
I think I'm going to be candid. The job market for junior designers, for newcomers, is very tough, very complicated. However, I would say that a generalist path, a path where you learn how to do product design, how to do a little bit of content, how to do a little bit of research, will serve you in terms of positioning yourself to learning And then as you gain some experience, you might say, you know what, I like product design, I like content, but my path is research. And then choose a specialty if that's what you desire. So that is one perspective for new joiners into the industry. I think as design leaders, my advice is to have a flexible mind and be able to be resilient under some really tough conditions, and consider how do we develop the next generation of senior designers and design leaders. If we're already hurting, but if we don't create the next generation, then we will hurt even more. So it's like, how do we create the programs, the conditions, the education factors? How do we ensure that we have a diverse set of talent in our teams, and that we bring everybody along for the ride? It's not just about I climb as a leader, but how do I climb together or push other people up along the way?
Yes, for sure. Agree with that. Okay, so into some of the fun questions here. What is your favorite quote?
I think one that resonates with me over the last several years, I think this came from Phil Gilbert in IBM when he was leading the design and building the practice there. And it was a piece of advice that he gave Katrina Alcorn, who was there until a couple of years ago. And it was, you are going to have many balls in the air. Some balls are going to be rubber. So if you drop them, no big deal, they bounce back. Don't drop the crystal balls because they will break and that will have a negative impact. So when you think about basically prioritization and things that are important and the impact that they may have, I think that is one thing that has been resonating in the back of my mind when I'm thinking about, well, I could do A, B, and C, or X, Y, and Z. And what are the choices of impact that would create, or where I would push something to the top of my priority list to ensure that I don't drop a crystal ball.
A lot of content out there. What would you recommend people to take a look at today?
Well, I think education has evolved substantially, and now there's a lot more access to virtual opportunities. So places like Maven, where some designers and business leaders have been putting a lot of really great content. I think access to podcasts like this one is a fantastic way to learn from others, or at least understand what others have gone through, that maybe one or two things resonate with you. And if you're able, I think just attending meetups, local meetups, or conferences. I think we're missing since the pandemic a lot of the people connection, and that is something that we need to keep always fresh. Whether you're an introvert and you need your personal space and you need to kind of stay away from the crowds, but from time to time you should feel comfortable going out, recharging your batteries or draining your batteries in the case of an introvert, and then going back to your home office or your particular circumstances, and think about how do we come stronger together as people and as a community and as a practice.
Yeah, and I mean, one thing you said there, which is so simple and true, is the local meetup scene. And I'm not just saying that from the perspective of somebody who runs meetups, but they're out there, they're typically free, and it's just a great opportunity to get out there in the community and meet other people. And going back to your point, okay, just be hanging out on the side and then make that goal of talking to someone, and you never know how that one conversation or that piece of content you picked up there is going to have an impact on you later on.
It's a great opportunity for learning what others are doing. Maybe they have a similar problem that you have and they broke through it, or they have some lessons learned that they could share with you. Or maybe you are the one who should be putting yourself out there and proposing a talk about the lessons learned, the anecdotes, the particular conditions of your situation that others can learn from.
Absolutely. It's a great way to test the waters on content, or how do I feel just standing up here and doing it. That's for sure. Where can people find you?
I'm very active in LinkedIn, so I think that's the easiest way to find me. I was active in Twitter, not so much anymore.
Jose, thank you so much for taking the time to be here today. Really appreciate the conversation. Look forward to getting this episode out there.
Thank you, Ryan. I really appreciate the conversation. We covered a lot of ground. I hope that the audience gets the chance to find a couple of golden nuggets that they can apply that resonates with them, and then they can share and leverage in their own professional growth and practice.
No doubt that they will. Thanks a lot, Jose.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for listening. If you enjoyed our content today, please like, subscribe, and comment below. We'd love to hear from you. Until next time.